All right, welcome back. This is gonna be another reaction that I am going to, another NBA reaction video that I'm gonna watch. Jimmy Rain, I believe his name, Jimmy Ranger. Yeah, I wanted to do this a couple weeks, or like I think it was about 2 weeks ago now. I wanted to do this, just to see, um, what's kind of going on for the offseason. I'm doing this basically after the NBA draft now. Second round I basically think is done. A lot of things happen, but I don't want to really talk about that. I have a video up, hopefully by the time that this is out. I'm just putting this out kind of later, just because I want to record and get some videos for later, basically. But now I just want to see, now that the off season is officially basically here, what players are most likely to be traded in the West, and then I will do the East probably for another video. I might do it for this video. We'll see how easy it goes through. But let's
Back
honestly
with
get
part
into it.
2 to finish things off on this topic after getting started with it in my last video. So if you missed that one, be sure to go watch it after you watch this. Basically, we're here to run through every single NBA team, identifying the one player on their roster that is most likely to be traded this offseason. Obviously, some teams are better than others, but no team is perfect or without weakness.
Or hoops reference,
trades
my
are
bad.
one of the
I don't know
best
why I
ways
thought
to go about addressing those weaknesses
I love hoops
and
reference
improving
too.
their squads for the new year. And this summer, I definitely anticipate a lot of movement coming.
Yeah.
In my last video, we did the teams in the Eastern Conference, so that means today we're finishing up by going through the teams in the Western Conference.
And this was before. Okay,
it turns out
give
a
me
good
one
amount of
second.
you watching right now.
Yeah, so please subscribe to this man. He does all the work. I don't really do any work, but yeah. So this is before even Jordan Poole, Chris Paul, all this other stuff happened. So I'm more surprised at what he will get right and what he gets wrong from
Now,
so
aren't
far.
even subscribed to the channel, so if you
But in
enjoy
the West,
content,
I think he
consider
probably
hitting
would
the
have said
subscribe
DeAndre
button,
Ayton would
as not
probably
only
get
does it help
get
out a ton, but I'd also very much appreciate it. Now, with that being said, let's begin. Going in alphabetical order, we'll start with the Dallas Mavericks.
Good one right there. Traded Davis Bertans draft night. Great one right there. I don't remember who it was traded to, but I think it was actually to the OKC Thunder. So they might buy him out or something like that. I don't know. But yeah, but Davis Bertans is officially not a Mavericks anymore after this. Yeah. So this is obviously right one. Yeah.
And the player they're most likely to trade is
they're using
Davis
it basically to
Bertans. I think the Mavericks will be desperate to shed salary this summer to give themselves a chance to build a better roster around Luka Doncic and possibly Kyrie Irving. And Bertans and his $17 million per year deal will be the first to go if that's the case. Bertans
I don't
won't
think
be
this man
easy
deserves
to
that
move
much money.
because after signing...
This is the only thing I have a problem with is NBA contracts, man, because they can have like a great last, like the last year of their deal, they'll be like the greatest play ever, and after that, whoo, just go down from there. And it's just, it makes no sense. I think the contract should be a consistent year after year after year, but no, it's whatever. I mean, the teams are doing this to themselves at this point, so yeah. And then when you trade for them, it's even weirder. So yeah, I just think that's the worst part of the NBA, if I'm being honest. I think you have to show consistency to actually get an actual contract.
Has fallen off of a cliff, but that doesn't mean that the Mavericks won't be trying. Next up is the Denver Nuggets, and the player the Nuggets will be likely trading is Zeke Naji.
I think Tom's
I'll be
right,
honest,
if I'm being honest.
I'm not sure if the Nuggets will be active traders this summer at all, because while they still have their entire championship starting lineup under contract,
I think
their entire bench is hitting free agency this summer almost, so they just don't have many options to trade. Naji is in the last year of his rookie contract and isn't necessarily going to be a piece used to swing a big trade, but the Nuggets don't need a big move because they're the reigning champions right now.
Yeah.
Up next is the Golden State Warriors, and the player they're most likely to trade is Jonathan Kuminga.
I'm surprised it didn't say Jordan Poole, but yeah, Jonathan Kuminga probably is not going to be on this team just for money reasons and all that other stuff, and just they don't need a young player right now, especially now that Chris Paul's there. So it's just interesting to see what the Warriors do in this situation. So
When Jonathan Kuminga was drafted, he flashed a ton of potential as someone who can cause.
I do love him as a player, though. I do love Jonathan
his
Kuminga.
athleticism shined through, and his ability to
Moses
compete on both
I
ends of
don't
the
as
floor
much,
looked
but people
promising
do.
moving forward.
I love Jonathan
This year,
Kuminga
though,
better.
he and the coaching staff weren't on the same page, as Kuminga was reportedly upset with his inconsistent playing time, and the coaching staff was not pleased with his entitled mindset. That could lead to a departure for Kuminga, as he's still young and enticing for other teams to go out and take a chance on.
More
Next up is the Houston Rockets, and the player they're most likely to trade is Jaylen. The Rockets are poised for a huge offseason, with rumors swirling that they'll be going after some of the league's biggest names, including James Harden and Kyrie Irving. That's in free agency, though, so regarding trades, he's the odd man out in their crowded front court, lacking the necessary floor spacing, but his defensive ability is still valuable, so they shouldn't have an issue getting another team to take him off of their hands. Up next is the Los Angeles Clippers, and the player they'll most likely be trading is Robert Covington. Covington, at his best, was a defensive stalwart and one of the best 3-and-D guys in the league, but last year he fell pretty much completely out of the Clippers' rotation. The Clippers have one of the biggest payrolls in the league going into next season, and Covington is being paid $12 million in each of the next 2 years. So in order to make their cap situation better, he seems like an obvious choice to hit the trade block. Next up is the Los Angeles Lakers, and despite my best efforts to try to pick someone out,
interesting. So let me think if I can see if they can trade for anybody. If I'm being honest, because they still can develop Max Christie, they could still get Rui from. I mean, the best one I can think of, because I know he's probably going to enter free. He's going to go into another team in free agency. But if they do get him back, Malik Beasley, if they do a sign and trade for him, if I'm being honest, I can see Malik Beasley going from a sign and trade to another team. But other than him, because I know he's technically free agent, maybe Mo Bamba, because they don't really even use him that much. I know he has a high upside and he's still pretty young, but he's just not that great of a player after all these years as he's supposed to be. They're not going to trade AD or LeBron or anything like that. So, if anything, I'd say probably, because Dennis Schroeder is probably a free agent too. I think. So, if anything, Malik Beasley sign trade or Mo Bamba. So.
Legitimately do not have a representative for this list. This is not an exaggeration. The only 3 players that have guaranteed contracts on the Lakers for next season right now are LeBron James, Anthony Davis, and Max Christie. Everyone else either seems primed to get waived, have their options declined, or hit free agency, so it's hard to make a trade working with that.
Yeah.
Next up is the Memphis Grizzlies, and the player they're most likely to trade is Zion Williams. This guy doesn't have enough playing time on this team. So Williams was their lottery pick 2 years ago, but with how fast they've been able to turn themselves into a contender, they no longer have the time to wait on his development as they are ready to prioritize winning. Williams has intriguing athletic tools to hone in on, but has a long way to go before being an effective offensive player, so he could be included in a trade package that lands them a potential Dillon Brooks replacement. Up next is the Minnesota Timberwolves. And
okay. Let's Karl Anthony Towns. If I'm being honest, I don't think so. I think they're going it back. Maybe Nickeil Alexander-Walker? I don't know. He's not from this team. Let me see. Let me see the roster on this team. Yeah, I don't know. I don't think Karl Anthony Towns is gonna be on this. Oh, there's a whatever. Teams. Timberwolves. Not them. There you are. Let me see this team. Let me see this roster. Jaylen Noel, I think Naz Reid is gonna be a free agent this season. If I'm being honest, no, because Mike Conley is a free agent as well. Is he on his last year? I guess Jordan McLaughlin at best. Maybe Nikhil Alexander-Walker. I think he's hitting free agency as well. Yeah, maybe one of those two. Because they did sign Kyle Anderson. I think he's good there. They love Jaden McDaniels, obviously. So I think Cat will probably stay.
Player they're most likely to trade is Karl-Anthony Towns.
I don't agree with
this.
The
Timberwolves went out and traded for Rudy Gobert last summer.
I think they're just going to
have
back.
nearly the level of impact on their success as they thought it would. He and Towns do not fit next to each other in the lineup, and with Anthony Edwards ready to take the reins of the franchise, Towns may have to be moved for the team to salvage their future. Towns is still one of the best.
I agree with what he's saying, but I don't think they're going to do it. That's the only difference I have a problem with. Is just this team is probably gonna be like, let's run it back one more time. Let's see if it actually will work. And then maybe by the trade deadline they do trade him or something like that happens. But I don't think in the offseason they will.
Wolves can absolutely get a solid.
But you don't know. This offseason's already going crazy with Chris Paul going to the Warriors.
Some of the draft capital that they lost in the Gobert trade, plus a few players that fit better into their lineup. That would be the ideal scenario. Next up is the New Orleans Pelicans, and the player they're most likely to trade this offseason
especially now,
Zion Williamson.
I think
Zion is one of the hottest names
I don't think
on
so.
the rumor mill right now, as apparently the Pelicans are getting impatient dealing with his constant injuries and setbacks, holding him out of games.
Especially with all the Twitter talk now,
the Pelicans would move him if they could land a top pick in the draft or another star in return. So this will be a very interesting storyline to watch play out over the next few weeks.
Yeah.
Up next is the Oklahoma City Thunder, and the player they're most likely to trade is Kenrich Williams. The Thunder and their young core took a huge step forward this season.
Yeah, I can see that. Because they don't really need him, if I'm being honest. I do love the guy. I don't love the guy. I think he's just he's a good player and all that. But I see him being traded for somewhere else. So yeah, I could see that. You can maybe for like a couple second-round picks or something like that.
More draft
what Sam
picks
Presti's
on the way,
doing over
they're
there.
going to have to make some trades for no other reason than freeing up some roster spots above all else.
Exactly.
Kenrich Williams is a very versatile forward who can defend multiple positions, move well off the ball,
I don't
and
like his
knock down
haircut
threes.
though.
And he's the kind of guy I could see contenders calling about to try to acquire. Next up is the Phoenix Suns, and the player they'll most likely be trading.
It wasn't him.
Deandre.
He probably will be though.
Probably
will be because he's a max contract and they are trying to get some role players. But there's reports have been saying that he will not be moved due to people not wanting him. And from what everyone's seen that Twitter play on against the Nuggets, I mean, yeah, when he doesn't even try to get a rebound, I wouldn't want him either. The only place maybe. Yeah, I'm being serious. I really don't know who would want him. My Bulls, if I'm being honest, the Bulls would technically take him because then you can get Alex Caruso or Vucevic or something like that in that kind of or Drummond at least, something like that. I don't know, because yeah, it's really bad.
Even free agency last summer, his season this year ended on yet another sour
I don't think
note,
they're getting
seeing him get
down
benched down the stretch of games, and his body language has been abysmal. He clearly doesn't want to be there, and for the betterment of him and the Suns, they need to move him not only to get someone who can actually play the role that they need, but also someone who actually wants to be there.
Exactly.
Up next is the Portland Trailblazers, and the player.
Guess who it might be though? I think Dame. I'm being honest, I think Dame now. Especially with the 3rd overall pick with Scoot Henderson. Dame's got to go. Dame's got to go. Because Dame's probably going to get requested trade by tomorrow. At least by tomorrow. So yeah, we'll go from there. But I think Dame. I love Anfernee Simons on this team. Scoot's there.
For the first time ever, we're finally seeing Damian Lillard show a slight willingness to explore trades, but it's more than likely just a way for him to send a message to the front
or anything
office.
Yusuf Nurkic.
They need to swing for the fences this summer to get Lillard a co-star, and Anfernee Simons will be the player included in any trade offer that they can concoct. Simons is a lethal shooting threat who averaged 21 points per game last year.
Small guard though.
Along with
I'd rather have him point guard than shooting guard.
Will be a package offered to several different suitors this summer. Next is the Sacramento Kings, and the player they'll most likely be trading is Davion Mitchell. Davion Mitchell has already been labeled as a trade target by a few contending.
I loved him though, because he was on Steph Curry the whole time during the playoffs. I loved him though. I could see why they would do it, but I loved him. I love him as a player, man. He's just great. He's like that Drew Holiday type of defender. Not good on the offensive side, but he still has that like Drew Holiday type of defender on him. And he was just guarding up Steph Curry almost the whole time. I don't know why they stopped playing him in that Game 7, but man was great.
Teams such as the Phoenix Suns, so while I don't foresee the Kings making too many big moves, I think they're going to have
they did trade Deshaun Holmes
regarding
so
his availability. His perimeter defense is truly as good as it gets, but offensively, he's not much of a threat yet, so we'll see what kind of offers the Kings actually receive for him and whether or not the interest is real. Up next is the San Antonio Spurs, and the player they're most likely to trade is Keldon Johnson. Johnson just had a bit of a breakout year this season, but
interesting. I don't agree with this, but okay, let me hold on.
Spurs have shown that they're not afraid to trade away some of their more productive players if it means they can get the better value in the long run, as we just saw last summer when they traded away DeJounte Murray after having a career year as well.
But he wasn't even an all-star. I'd rather have him go to an all-star type of player than trade
aggressive this offseason, and Johnson is a solid piece to start a trade offer with.
Okay, I guess, but still, I'd rather him go to an all-star type of player and then trade him. If I'm being honest, I'd rather trade Doug McDermott, Zach Collins, or something like that, because you don't need Zach Collins anymore with Victor there. Yeah, so I'd rather trade like Doug McDermott, Devontae Graham, Zach Collins, someone like that. Just I know you're building up for your salary and all that stuff, so later on in free agency, but I'd get someone who's a little bit better, like I guess veteran, something like that. I see where he's going, though, but I wouldn't do it just yet for Keldon Johnson this offseason. He's still a good player. You can still keep developing him. And same thing with Devin Vassell or Trey Jones and all that stuff. So, yeah.
And finally, the last team up is the Utah Jazz, and the player they're most likely to trade is Kelly Olynyk. The Jazz are another team maintaining the long view with their rebuild, and with Olynyk both being 32 years old and going into the last year of his current contract, they recognize that he's probably not a part.
Yeah. But the thing is, I would let him just play it out. I'd let him play it out for this season and give the players just some tips and be that veteran presence and all that other stuff, so that way they can all be fighting for minutes, especially the younger players. So I'd keep him for the year at least. If he's not showing great improvement throughout the year, then you'd probably I'd trade him at the trade deadline at least. But I see why you want to trade him in the offseason, just to kind of get rid of him. No, I like him in the Utah Jazz. He was great for the Utah Jazz. If I'm being honest, I think Jordan Clarkson might be moving on because he might want to be on a championship contender team. I know there's a lot of talks about it during the trade deadline last year and off-season last year as well, that he might be moving, especially since Donovan and Rudy left. So I do think Jordan Clarkson might be moving, and that's pretty much it, because you got Lauri Markkanen, who's your all-star player, all-NBA player, I think it was, and most improved player, I think it was. Was he most improved? I actually don't know. Why am I blinking on this? Holy crap. Hold up. No, not mileage. Yeah, it was Lauri Markkanen. Okay. Yeah. So yeah, you got your MIP, LNBA all-star player. You have a great rim protector in Walker Kessler. You just got Taylor Hendricks, good stretch for a little bit. So, and you still got Ochai Agbaji. You don't really have point guard, so I think you need that. I think Jordan Clarkson probably might move from this. But, yeah, that's it for this one. Let me see the other one, because he did do that one first. So, let me see. That was right there. Oops. All right, we'll go with this one. Alright, so now we go to the East.
The NBA offseason is officially here now that the Denver Nuggets have been crowned champions of the season. Congratulations to them.
I saw that. Okay. John Collins, I think, is probably going to be moved. Where, I don't know, because it was reported that the Mavericks were interested in John Collins and Clint Capella So now because they got Derek Lively and someone else, I forget who it was, Omax, I think it was.
John Collins. John Collins is a trade block Hall of Famer at this point because his name has been in trade rumors for years now, yet no deal has come about yet. This summer, though, is probably the most likely time for that to change, as the Hawks have very few other options regarding finding ways to improve. Collins has expressed an eagerness to find a new home. He's probably the most expendable asset in their current lineup, and he has enough value to warrant a worthwhile return.
This like 2 years
Next up is the Boston Celtics, and the player they are most likely to trade this summer is Jaylen Brown. I've discussed Brown in a few of my most recent videos, but basically him and the Celtics are in a weird spot.
They did trade Danilo Gallinari and Mike Muscala, so yeah. They did trade Marcus Smart. I totally forgot about that. So that's kind of weird that Marcus Smart is actually gone now. Jeez, that is so weird. I still can't think about it. I still can't think about that. But yeah, Marcus Smart, Mike Muscala, and all this. I mean, he's really off, if I'm being honest. They got KP back. Still got Malcolm Brogdon. They still got Derek White. They still got, if he goes through because he's restricted free agency, Grant Williams, Al Horford, Robert Williams. So Jaylen Brown, he might sign that contract. I think he's going to be signed trade next offseason.
Brown wasn't a very big fan of them throwing his name into trade offers in each of the last two seasons.
That kind of sucks.
He's been vocal about his concerns with certain aspects of the organization, and now the Celtics either have to give him a monstrous contract worth nearly $300 million if they want to keep him long term.
Definitely
whether it comes down to Brown requesting $1 million if they want to keep him long term. Whether it comes down to Brown requesting a trade or not, I do believe this is an avenue that the Celtics will explore, because under the new CBA, his extension could cripple them. Up next is the Brooklyn Nets, and the player they're most likely to trade is Cam Thomas. Cam Thomas took the league by storm for about a week.
I remember that for the 3 straight games, he scored 40 points. I was like, damn! But then after that, nobody heard from him again. That was the craziest NBA week. So, if I'm being honest, he probably is going to be the one that's traded. Because I wouldn't trade Nick Claxton. I'm not trading Mikal. Spencer Dinwiddie is going to be free agent, so he might go somewhere this offseason. Yeah. Or Joe Harris. I think Joe Harris might be the one to move too. I think Seth Curry's a unrestricted free agent. So that, yeah.
Week this season before he was inexplicably phased out of the rotation, but after dropping over 40 points in 3 consecutive games, he showed that he clearly has potential as a scoring threat. The Nets don't seem to be the
They could trade Ben Simmons. They could totally do that. I think they would totally do that, if I'm being honest, because I know they talked about it. But also, I know he's been working out. I've seen the photos and all that stuff, so I still think he him.
But he's exactly the kind of talent that rebuilding squads take a flyer on and give a chance to, so the Nets should look to move him if they don't plan on using him. Next is the Charlotte Hornets, and the player they're most likely to trade Hayward is Terry Rozier.
Definitely one of those two.
Rozier received a ton of interest at this season's trade deadline, according to reports, but no deal actually got finalized. He's the kind of talent that can definitely contribute for a team looking to contend for the playoffs.
Okay, if he was to be traded, where would he be great at? Back to Celtics, to be honest. But not. Let's just say you can't go back to Celtics. Maybe the Utah Jazz. I think the Utah Jazz would probably be good for him. So, yeah.
And with the Hornets still undergoing a rebuild, they should absolutely be looking to cash in on their veteran guys to prioritize the development of their prospects. Up next is the Chicago Bulls, and the player they are most likely to trade this summer is Zach LaVine. The Bulls really don't have much to offer, so if they're going to make a move,
man. Please don't trade Zach. I know you probably will. I know we should. I know if we trade DeMar and Vooch, Zach's got to be gone after too, and then the team's gonna suck. Oh, yeah. No, yeah, I do agree with this in some sense that if we do trade DeMar and Vooch, that then we got to trade Zach. But if we're running it back, which I do not want to happen, yeah, it's just, yeah. Vucevic, let's trade him and DeMar DeRozan for, okay. I'm gonna stop there. But yeah. I do agree with this in the sense that if we do have DeMar DeRozan and Vooch next year, which they are planning to sign, that we keep them. But if they don't, then trade them. Yeah, it's just we got to get rid of Zach and get some future assets in it. So
likely be
it'd be a sad day. It'd be a sad day.
Blow things up. The Bulls went all in 2 years ago, and what that has netted them is a first-round exit from the playoffs and a play.
Because freaking Lonzo got hurt. That's not our fault.
In tournament appearance that resulted in them missing the playoffs. Their ceiling moving forward is very low with what they currently have, so moving LaVine for assets to start fresh may end up being the best option.
To run it back.
Next up is the Cleveland Cavaliers, and the player they're most likely to trade is Isaac Okoro. The Cavaliers' biggest need right now is an impactful small forward because that was the position that held them back the most this year. Having to choose between Okoro, Cedi Osman.
If they do trade him for just to get some money, I think they would probably go after Kuz in the market. They could. I know Kuz is looking for a $30 million contract, which is even crazier if they have Evan Mobley and all that. So, yeah. Oof. I don't think that's gonna happen. But if so, I don't know what the Cavs can get in return for the Isaac Okoro or anything like that. Especially if they have Cedi Osman and Dean Wade and all of them. It's just kind of weird for the Cavs. Because you did give, I think it was Dean Wade, you gave him that multiple year contract because you thought he was the guy, but then he got injured or something like that. And then Isaac Okoro had to step up. I remember he hit that big time 3 against the Nets. So yeah, I do think it's going to be a little more interesting for the Cavs. If I could, I would trade Isaac Okoro, but what that turns into, I don't know. I think I would trade Isaac Okoro because he has probably the best value.
And Dean Wade at that spot is a pretty poor rotation for a playoff team hoping to make a run. And Okoro has shown the most promise as a defender to maybe draw some interest on the trade block. It's not going to be an easy thing to find an upgrade, but it's what they have to work with.
Yeah.
Next up is the Detroit Pistons, and the player they're most
totally
likely
forgot
to
this
trade
man was on this
is
team.
Alec Burks.
Burks
just had his team option
32 points. He put up a 32 point. I did not know that. That's crazy.
Interested in
10 for 11, 6 for 7.
He's a solid veteran scoring threat who also has
32 points. Damn. Okay. I see you, Alec. Old man.
To be a good locker room guy to have. He's shot over 40% from 3 in each of the last 3 seasons, and the Pistons know they'll be able to get something in return for him. Up next is the Indiana Pacers, and the player they're most likely...
Do you trade him, though? Do you trade him as if you're a Pacers? If you're the Pacers, do you trade him now? Because I feel like at this point, you just keep him. Now, yeah, I can see why you want to trade him, because you get future assets and all that good stuff. Maybe even get a better wing defender or something like that. Just a better wing player in general for Buddy Hield, because I know a lot of teams do need shooting. Just a lot. I know teams just need shooting in general nowadays. Or you could just free up some money for the next year in free agency and all that good stuff. So, yeah, I could see it happening, but I'd much rather want them to keep him. If he's a good player by the trade deadline, if he's still a good 3-point percentage player, or 3-point player, or wing player in general, I think you should keep him. If he's not, you trade him by trade deadline. That's what I think. If not, go what you want to do.
To trade this summer is Buddy Hield. Hield is going into the last year of his current contract, and it's unlikely that the Pacers plan to extend him based on the timeline that they're on as a young team on the rise.
Yeah.
He's one of the league's best volume
but he's
shooters
just a good
from
veteran
3,
to have.
so he too will have plenty of suitors for teams with short-term aspirations, while the Pacers continue to keep their eyes on the long view.
Yeah.
Next up is the Miami Heat, and the player they're most likely to trade is...
I think Kyle Lowry. I think Kyle Lowry is probably the one that's going to be traded on the Heat. just because that big contract, man, and that he doesn't play meaningful minutes. I know Tyler Hero did not play almost any minutes at all except for the first game of the playoffs, but I think Tyler Hero still has a little bit more upside. Still pretty young, can still shoot great from perimeter. Just Kyle Lowry is huge contract. You dump him off. Same thing with Duncan Robinson. And then I know Kyle Lowry was playing with some great hustle in the playoffs too, especially off the bench. And he played very meaningful minutes to the Miami Heat. I just think at this point he's a little bit older, on the older side. Duncan Robinson, I know, kind of got his value up again too in playoffs, especially with his cutting and being just like the Duncan Robinson he was in the bubble. But again, I do think with Kyle Lowry being a little bit older, having big contract, you do move him for some type of asset. Same thing with Duncan Robinson with his contract, especially him being on his last year of this deal too. So yeah, I think either one of those two probably get moved. Not Tyler Hero.
Tyler Hero. It's going to be hard for the Heat to pull off a move this offseason because of their cap constraints and lack of expendable pieces, but anything they intend to do will
also, they do
start
have Gabe
with
Vincent
Tyler
and Max
Hero
Strus in free agency.
headlining the
I do
package.
see him going
They
for Gabe
just
Vincent
made
over
it
Max
all the way to
Strus.
the NBA Finals without Hero
just because he gives
even
meaningful
playing. And while
backup
Hero
point
has
guard
proven
even
to
though
be
he's
a
a little bit
quality
smaller
scoring threat
and all that
with a
good stuff.
Sixth Man of
And
the
I
Year
think he's
award
better.
under his belt, he's easily the most expendable piece that the Heat have. They know they need to get aggressive to stay
If they
in contention.
are very
so
on the
Hero
like,
is
if they're
their best chance of
if
doing
they're backed
that.
into a corner,
Up
I think
next
they
is the
do trade
Milwaukee
him.
Bucks, and the player they're most likely to trade is Bobby Portis.
No. I say Grayson Allen. Why? Because he's shown that he's not a good player in the playoffs. Even though people are gonna be like, "Well, I'll trade him just because he's like a horrible player and all that goes, like all that stuff." No, I'm talking about basketball in general. Like he's just not a great playoff player. And yeah, I'd rather have Grayson Allen off the just out of the team. Just off the team in general, because he just doesn't like. I remember that one play, the freaking little hop step. Yes, that was it. The Grayson Allen where he freaking did a little hop step in the last play for the freaking against the Miami Heat. I was like, what are we doing? What are we doing? Yeah, so Grayson Allen definitely got to be traded, man. Bobby Portis, you keep that man. He's almost a 6-man of the year type of player. Yeah, you keep this man. I think you keep this man because he gives meaningful minutes.
Bucks are at
Joe
risk
Ingles
of
too.
losing
I think
Brook
Joe Ingles
Lopez
needs to be
free
traded
agency
because he's kind of
unless they free up some cash to pay him, which he feels that he deserves. He's a key piece to the team's success, and they're already approaching the cap ceiling, so somebody is going to have to go. Bobby Portis and his
I think you keep him. You probably get rid of Brook Lopez, just 'cause he's kind of getting old too. Bobby Portis gives a meaningful center position. You still have Giannis as a great defender on the point as the power forward. I think he's great if you put him in the center position against Brook Lopez. He's not going to be as good as defender as Brook Lopez, probably, but he's still going to be going to be pretty good.
$12 million per year contract is unfortunately most likely to draw the short end of the stick, and after yet another great season as a dominant rebounder and floor spacer, the Bucks won't have any problem finding takers with a good offer for him because he is a quality piece to have in the rotation.
No, I think you get
next is the New York Knicks, and the player they're most likely to trade is Evan Fournier. A lot of you probably
Obi
forgot
Toppin.
Fournier is
I've
even
heard
still
there's a
on
lot
the
of trade
team
rumors
after they removed him entirely from their rotation, but both sides are well aware that Fournier's time in New York is over, and they will be working together to try to find him a
Shout out to
new
Evan
home
Fournier
this
for
summer.
getting that
His
massive
production
contract.
took a nosedive early on
he was
this
good.
season when
He's
still
actually a
playing,
consistent
so the
shooter.
Knicks
I think he
likely
did
won't
deserve
get
his contract
much in
in
return
general.
for him,
but
they'll take
I think
whatever
he's just
they
getting
can get at
old,
this
and
point.
he's just
Up
gonna be
next
like
is the
a type of Seth
Orlando
Curry type
Magic,
guy.
and the player they're most likely to trade is Jonathan Isaac.
You know who I think might be traded? I think the Orlando Magic are going to trade Jalen Suggs. If he's not playing as good or playing meaningful rotational minutes in Orlando, I think he's gone. Same thing with Cole Anthony. Cole Anthony is different though, because he just needs to be gone from this organization. Him, Bol. There's a lot of guys. I'm being honest. Him, Bol, Gary Harris, Jonathan Isaac, obviously, and Jalen Suggs. I think those 5 guys you can easily trade off the Magic. And for what? Probably to kind of free up cap space or something like that. But also, I think you do need some veteran players on this team. yeah, maybe if you do keep Jonathan Isaac just because he still has that high upside, even though he has gone through multiple years of injuries, and you're paying him $15 million, I think it was close to it, for just being a good defender or great defender. Because this guy could be at least a DPOY type of player, but that's if he is healthy. So I do see if they do. I can see why they would trade him. So yeah.
Isaac has played just 11 total games in the last 3 seasons,
yeah,
and the Magic no longer have the patience to deal with that. They're ready to push forward with the guys that they have, and Isaac does not seem to be a part of their plans any longer.
I think they do have patience. They have enough patience to wait for years.
Because he's being paid decent money to be a liability on the roster, but the fact that he was a great defensive talent a few years ago may be enough to convince a team to take a chance on him, even if the payoff doesn't quite come from it.
Yeah.
Next is the Philadelphia 76ers, and the player they're most likely to trade is Tobias Harris.
Yeah, I agree
Harris
with that.
signed a max contract 4 years ago, and
that
contract has been crippling the team ever since. We finally arrived at the final year of that deal, which makes moving
he's a great player and all, but I just don't think he deserves that much of a contract.
Are far more likely to take in a bad contract if it's just a 1-year deal that comes off of the books immediately the next season. Up next is the Toronto Raptors, and the player they're most likely...
What I've heard, they're not trading anybody. And what I've heard also is that Jakob Poeltl does not want to be part of a rebuilding team as well. So, you have a lot of options to go from here. You can... if I'm being honest, if I was the Raptors, I'd trade all my assets. All the good assets. OG, Pascal, Jakob. I'd probably keep Gary Trent, if I'm being honest. But OG, Jakob, and Pascal a trade, if I'm being honest. But I know that's probably not going to happen. It's just, yeah. Yeah, it's just weird.
To trade,
and I think Fred VanVleet can go another team.
The Raptors seem to be headed in a new direction as Fred VanVleet and Gary Trent are free agents. They brought in a new head coach, and other key guys are on the last year of their current deals. Anunoby has reportedly been seeking a bigger role, and he was a popular name around the trade deadline this year too. The Raptors turned down every offer.
I don't know why, but I think it's just because he wasn't traded over the trade deadline. I think lately I've been kind of undervaluing him in some sense. I know he's a great player, great defender, great 3-and-D player, I should say. It's just something about it. It's just making me kind of undervalue him and feel like because these other teams don't want him. Or I know the Raptors also have declined a lot of offers as well for OG. But a lot of the teams I've seen have truly just don't want him for some odd reason. I don't know what's going on there. So maybe it's just because of his frustration with his role and just not him buying into his role, and I guess teams are not happy with that. But I don't know, because if this guy can turn into like a Mikel type of player where you go from a great role player to now almost all-star type of player, I think that'd be great for some teams. But also, if he just stays the same player, it's like whatever. Because I know Memphis was truly trying to get him too.
That they got for him with hopes of making a playoff run, but that didn't come about. So now they're probably going to reconvene on those prior discussions and take what they can get for him. And finally, the last team up is the Washington Wizards, and the player they're most likely to trade.
You were right. He was the Suns, and they only got Chris Paul, Landry Shamet, and a couple second-round picks. So yeah, that's it for the video. I know this is a pretty long video now. It's almost 40 minutes. Thanks for staying with me and kind of dealing with my shenanigans and all that good stuff. If you made it this far, give this man all the praise for this hoops reference. Please subscribe to him. I know he makes all the videos. I just react to them. But man, the Bradley Beal one is kind of crazy still in hindsight. Just for the whole, you have 4 max players. I think four max players, and 3 of them are top 15 in being paid the most. So in that sense, I think DeAndre Ayton needs to be traded, or at least some good role players, or just good anything at that point, just anything. But yeah, Bradley Beal is finally off the Wizards, and the Wizards can now go into rebuild mode, which they've officially been in now for the for last week. But yeah, if I'm being honest, it's just a weird thing to see. I think this offseason is gonna be even crazier than I expected it to be, because this offseason was supposed to be just like, oh, whatever. Because Chris Middleton for agency, he's probably gonna go back to the Bucks. Kyrie Irving's probably gonna go back to the Mavs or whatever, even though he's trying to recruit LeBron. James Harden is probably gonna go to the 76ers, even though Houston Rockets are kind of going for him, and James is still wanting to go over there. But if there's still drama enough for that. But that was like it, pretty much. Like, those guys are like, oh, all right, those are the top 3 guys, and that's it. But over literally the last week, it's just gotten crazier and crazier, and I just love it. If I'm being honest, because more content, more things to happen, and more things for it to happen. And honestly, the only people that I want to make trades in all this is the freaking Chicago Bulls, because what are we doing? We literally didn't have a pick tonight. We never even traded for a pick tonight, which even pisses me off more. But yeah, this sucks for the. I think Chicago Bulls need to do something, because they're just kind of starting. We're gonna be the new Washington Wizards, man. Like, this is gonna be so bad. Oof. So yeah, please tell me how you guys like, or please like the video and all that good stuff. Comment, subscribe. Tell me what you think is gonna probably be the biggest trade of this offseason. Biggest trade has probably happened that I thought of, Bradley Beal, or Chris Paul. But for me, I would want DeMar DeRozan and Vooch to be traded this offseason. So that'd be the biggest off trade if I'm being honest. Also, Kristaps, congrats to being Celtics. That's cool. Yeah. So we'll see this offseason, and we'll go from there. But have a good night and goodbye.